Do you want to learn how to make delicious campfire bread with just a few simple ingredients? Let me show you. Recently, Joe and I went on a brutal winter camping trip. I knew we would need a morale boost, and there's nothing like warm bread to lift your spirits. The night before we went camping, I made this bread kit so it would be super simple and fast to make in the field. So here's what you're gonna need. 2-gallon Ziploc bags, 1 to store everything in, and 1 to actually mix the bread dough up in. 100 grams of all-purpose flour, 74 grams of water, or about 3 fluid ounces. 6 grams of oil. This can be vegetable oil, avocado oil, olive oil, whatever you want. Just not motor oil. And you want 2.4 grams of salt. Lastly, you need yeast for your bread so that it can rise and it can ferment and do all the bread things that need to happen. You're gonna need half a packet of yeast or approximately 3 grams. Some people might wanna have a little bit of spare flour in the extra bag just so you can get it on your hands, because if you put the flour on your hands, your bread dough won't stick to it as much, which is kinda nice. You'll notice in the video that I did not do that step. All right, so what's so great about this bread kit? Well, it's super lightweight, and because you're mixing everything in the bags, there's no dishes to clean up, which is perfect for camping. So this is how you make it. First, you dump the oil and the water into the bag with the flour. Then, you close the Ziploc bag. Make sure there's plenty of air in it. Squeeze the ingredients until they're all mushed together and mixed together real nicely. You gotta let it sit for 30 minutes, and this is so that it can start to develop the gluten. Now, you add the salt and the yeast and mix it together again really, really thoroughly. You'll know you've mixed it enough when the dough is starting to not stick to the bag anymore. And that's when we came to the awful realization that indeed, bread needs time to rise. I forgot. This recipe works best if you leave the bread to rise and ferment overnight. We actually had to make a makeshift warming bag for this. We threw some hand warmers in a bag and sealed it up, and then I actually put it in my sleeping bag as well that night so that it could stay nice and toasty warm and it would allow the yeast to work overnight. Now, if you're gonna be hiking with this, you might wanna just throw it in the top of your backpack because the sun's gonna hit it and keep that area very warm, allow that bread to ferment well. As you saw in our recent canned survival video, the night was super rough, and even inside the hiking shelter, we dealt with temperatures in the single digits. That morning, we were miserable and ready for some good food. Okay, so we have our dough. We're gonna put some oil in the pan and then cook them up. So good. Basically, you wanna cook the biscuits 3 minutes on one side and then flip them over and cook them 3 minutes on the other side, and then you are ready to enjoy them. What we did, which made them absolutely awesome, is we put a bunch of butter on them, and then we put some sugar down, and then we put some honey over the top of that. And let me tell you, that combination is ridiculously good on hot, fresh bread. This makes me so happy. I have been wanting to make this bread recipe for a little while now, and it looks like it's turning out really good. Even despite the cold, it still has risen.
All right, here's the taste test. It's so warm.
So I love doing complicated things like that. I mean, it's not like super complicated, but I mean, I always just stick with the same things. I always eat ramen, tortillas, like something so simple because it feels difficult to do anything else when you're outdoors. But doing these little recipes like this that are just, they just elevate the experience so much. This recipe is shockingly easy to make, and it is so worth it. This would be great for family camping trips. It's an awesome activity to do with kids, and they will love the finished product. Just make sure you make enough of it because it goes fast. You might want to double the recipe if you have 2 people. It's also really good for hiking and long distance adventures because it's super light until you add the water. Let me know in the comments what comfort food you like to make when you're camping, and maybe I'll try that next. Hope you found that useful, or at least entertaining. We'll see you later.